Welcome to the Rialto Marketing Podcast. Today's episode is a revenue acceleration series interview where we talk to seven-figure B2B professional service firm owners that are actively trying to grow their business and get to the next level. We talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly so that you can learn from their experience. Hi, I am Tim Fitzpatrick with Rialto Marketing, where we believe you must remove your revenue roadblocks to accelerate growth, and marketing should not be difficult. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. I am super excited to have Brian Beilman with me from Iuvo Technologies. Brian, welcome, and thanks so much for being here.
Oh, pleasure to be here. I've been looking forward to this. Looking forward.
Yeah, me too.
Good conversation.
Yeah, you guys, you have a lot of experience. I think a lot of great things to share that people can learn from. Before we dig into that, I want to ask you a few rapid fire questions to just kick things off. Are you ready to jump in with both feet?
Let's go.
Okay. So very quickly, what do you do and how long have you been doing it?
I'm the CEO and co-founder of Iuvo, and we're an IT consulting and managed services company based in Boston. I've been in the industry for over 30 years, and this is Iuvo is a 16-year-old company.
You're doing something right, man. 16 years.
I made it past the infant mortality phase, at least.
What's the most important lesson you've learned in those 16 years?
It always goes down to hiring the best people. And I think a lot of people say that, but you also have to build a recruiting and a hiring process around that. So yeah, I think that tried and true. It's like having great people, hire people that are better than you.
Yeah. It's so interesting how I totally agree with you. You've got to have a system. Honestly, it is not that difficult to stand out from a hiring standpoint because so many people just do it the same as everybody else, right? And so having a system that you can work makes a huge difference. And I also think a lot of people kind of neglect the marketing side of it. And marketing is super important when it comes to recruiting people. Not just how you market your business, but how you market to the team members that you intend to attract.
I would tend to agree. I think marketing is a sales, kind of as culture is a hiring. Their market, you have to market your culture. Otherwise they don't know what they're getting into. And, if you're honest about your culture and you can market it and then people come there, it's a big win.
Yeah. Well, I mean, come on. In reality, what are people doing when they see a job posting? They're going to your website, right?
Yeah, they're going social, they're going everything they can learn about you to find out.
Yep. And if they're not impressed with what you're doing, how you're portrayed, you've lost the battle before it's even started.
I agree.
So, 16 years, you've seen some ups, you've seen some downs. Is there any kind of mantra or some motivational thing that you say to yourself, share with your team to kind of push through those times where you're running into challenges or roadblocks?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest thing I could think of on that is really to believe in yourself. I think if you maybe as an entrepreneur, you're going to see things you've never seen before. Your team may see things they've never seen before. And so, I believe in myself. I know my co-founder, Jeff, believes in himself. And then we reinforce to our team, like, we hired you for a reason because you're better than us. And we think things are going to be fine. We just got to, go forth. I think when times get tough, I think one of the biggest challenges there, I mean, yes, for the mantra, which is believe in yourself, but I think, if you can focus on the thing ahead of you, I think people lose focus sometimes because they're like, well, this is easy and this is the best thing. So you're like, people don't go towards focus on the right thing, and you'll I think it'll be fine. But I think it's really just believing that you're gonna figure it out.
Yeah. Even the best of us get imposter syndrome or have a monkey on our back at some point in the journey, right? So if we can just hey, believe in yourself, and I have what it takes to figure this out.
Yeah, they both can live simultaneously. You can have imposter syndrome and saying, well, I believe what we're doing. I believe everything we've done. but yeah, I mean, half the time I'm like, I don't know if I deserve to be here. And my kids, so
one of the things that that we talked about in the pre-interview, Brian, was one of the biggest drivers of your growth, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, where you just have a huge focus on hiring the best people, and you tend to lean towards very senior level people. Obviously, that is an expensive investment. The best people, senior people, are not cheap. Why did you choose to do that, and how has it helped grow the business?
Oh yeah. It does relate to what I said earlier about good people hiring you. But I think if you listen to some of the business leaders, and this wasn't an media, this is I was kind of looking back a little bit. Like Jim Collins was, like the business leader. He's like, hire the right people and get those right people on the bus. Or Steve Jobs talked about hiring A+ players, and they'll run circle around B and C. So those we found those to be very true. So when we started the company 16 years ago, it was probably a little bit of impatience, a little bit of need. So we started, when we first started, we had the primary customers we had were semiconductor companies. So they produced semiconductors, and they had very complex needs with their software and their whole IT stuff, right? Very complex. And so an average person, or a person without very high level of skills, is kind of beyond them. So we had to hire very senior people just to get that, to serve those customers. And then throughout, as you start growing, you say, well, you touched on it. They're, good people are expensive. So we tried a few times to hire less skilled or people, and we failed, and our customers noticed that as well. So when you say, well, we have a high value, you're trying to create a value or brand, and you say we're the best, and then they say, well, what about this person over here that's not so good? But regardless of this, not always like skill level. It's typically a growth mindset. So we found some really people who don't have a lot of experience, but they learn at an incredible pace. And so I think that translates to more senior people. But you can. I'd say that because even the most senior people can learn from a less skilled member who has a very strong skill in XYZ. So collectively, if you're collaborating well and you're working together well, I think that has given us the most success at our customers, and that right there for growth, as you said, is the less churn you have, you can build on your customers, and you don't have to replace them.
Yeah.
So it helps focus on new versus trying to retain the old, because you have good quality people. That is the thing that really has helped.
Yeah. Well, it's expensive to churn. Because it's really expensive to find new business at times. So you're far better off doing what you can to keep the clients that you have than looking for new business. So it's also interesting too. This was kind of a trial and error thing. It's not like you went into this going, this is our strategy and we have to execute on it. It was a demand thing. It's like, hey, the clients that we're working with, we have to have senior level people.
Yeah.
And then there was some trial and error where you're like, do we really need these people? Let's test this. And you tried it and it didn't work. And so you went back. Right. And I think in business, whether it's operations or finance or sales or marketing, there's always trial and error. We're testing things. And as we test things, as long as we measure what we're doing, we've got the data that we need to go, did that work or did it not? And so I think I love this story, because I think a lot of people think, man, I've got to have it all figured out. And man, we don't have it figured out. You know, it's like we're doing the best with what we have, and we're just constantly iterating. And that also ties back to that growth mindset, where you're just constantly looking for ways that you can get better and better and better.
Yeah. It's also, I think, what I found too is the senior people. So IT can be very complex. And if you ever, it's IT in some ways is like a a good writer. Like you read somebody who's really writes well, and they do elegant things in very few words. And so IT can be very complex, and those experienced people, they've seen it, they've done it, and they probably wrote a book on it themselves, and they go, well, instead of going A, B, C, D, E, F, you're just going right to A to F, and you solved it in a very simple and elegant way. And so that, when that starts, when your customers feel that and they go, wow, this is a difference, because, you try to differentiate yourself a little bit, but you can't do that unless you actually work on the differentiators.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so that's a perfect segue into the next thing I want to ask you about, because we also talked about that, where you had shared with me, gosh, early on, our differentiators just weren't unique. And if they're not unique, they're not differentiators. This is a common problem. I see it all the time in the IT MSP space, but it is the same across the board. Differentiating is a real challenge for people. And one of the things you said was, hey, we worked with our customers and within our company with our team to find them. And I'd love for you to kind of just share some of the steps that you guys took to do that.
Yeah. So, I think you touched a little bit on that as far as working with your customers. The first part of it was a sudden realization where you go to a sales call and you say, hey, I just want you to know that we have the best people, the best process, the best technology. And they said, well, the other 5 people I talked to said the same exact thing. And you're like, oh, okay, yeah, but we really mean it, and so that's not gonna work, right?
Yeah.
So when we went out, we started to find like what data do we have to prove? What data do we have to prove that we think we're unique in certain areas? And then what do our customers think? So for an example, we thought, our customers liked us because we were so senior. And you ask them questions, and they find out, no, we love your response time. We love the fact that you get to us right away. And so it's like, oh, really? So then, do we have any data that shows like how fast we get to back to our customers? And so we found, oh, well, for the last 16 years, for example, it was we respond within 16 minutes to any issue. Well, like that's over that long period of time, it's pretty good. So we say, okay, I think that's a differentiator, and we can prove it. We have data to show it. And so if response time is important to somebody, then they go, oh, that's legit. But I think you try to, you look at all of the, you put together a theory that these are differentiators, and you test it. Is this true? And is this really unique? And how is it unique? So people say, oh, we have really great customer service. And you say, well, okay, so how do you measure that? Well, we went and did the NPS, the Net Promoter Score, and let's asking them that question. Turns out we excel at that, right? So we're 2.5 times higher than our competitors, the industry average. So
yeah.
Okay. Then we started developing over time, and then we said, well, then you have to test those. You think those are your differentiators, and you have a call with your customer or prospect, and you find out whether they think that's valuable. And then some of them go, well, what is NPS? And you're like, okay, well, maybe that's good, but maybe they don't quite understand that. How do you drill down and make it very simple language that people can, you can validate, and B, that it is truly a differentiator.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a couple things I want to pull out here, Brian, because you guys did a ton of things right in this process. I think because it is so hard for us as business owners to think objectively about our business, and it's, we're too close to the fire. Right. And so I always go back to client interviews. I talk to your ideal clients, hear it in their own words, right? Like you think, hey, they care about senior level people, but then you hear from them, no, man, your response time is amazing. Okay, right? And you hear it back in their words, what's important to them. Well, what's important to your ideal clients is going to be most likely important to your ideal prospects as well.
Yeah.
And so, you guys got that information, created that. Your team members, frontline people, especially frontline salespeople, frontline customer service people, they're talking to prospects and clients every day and hearing it from them as well. And so team members have all kinds of valuable information. Um, you know, one of the things you touched on too was, hey, we were going out with these 3 differentiators and they're the same as everybody else. And the other thing I want to highlight here is people think that their differentiators have to be completely unique from everybody else. And they really don't. As long as your 3 differentiators are not exactly the same as everybody else, you've got some differentiators, right? The problem is when they're all 3 are the exact same, then you have an issue.
Sure.
But the other thing too, and this is really tough in the MSP space, because I've seen MSPs come up with guarantees, right? Guarantees is another great way potentially to come up with a really strong differentiator. But I see people come up with guarantees that people don't care about, right? Like you see in the MSP space, like, oh, we guarantee you'll be happy, or we'll let you out of the contract. Well, the reality is when somebody spent a month or two switching all of their IT over, I mean, unless it is just like debilitating to their business, they're not going to do that again, right?
Yeah.
So that guarantee doesn't mean anything. But now you have data. Hey, we respond in an average of 16 minutes, right? If you really want to take it to the next level, and this scares a lot of people, you could say like, hey, we guarantee that we're gonna respond in 20 minutes or less.
Yeah.
Nobody does that, right? And so now you have to back it up, right, with something and tell them, hey, what are you going to do for that? But that's a huge differentiator that most people will never do because 1, they're scared of it. 2, they don't have the data, right? You have the data. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that, because man, creating your differentiator is once you nail down your differentiators, did you notice a fairly immediate change in your conversions when you were going into sales?
Gosh, I guess I don't have that data ahead of me, but I mean, I hadn't thought of it looking at that point in time, or it hasn't been an overnight. It's been like it's been a lot of work over a long period of time. You change this, you change that. Okay. And, how do you make these things pretty, or how do you make how do you, the language, everything. So, but I know going into, at least in the calls, there's never any that I don't get that question like, oh, everyone else says that. Right. So like,
right. Yes.
So there's that, they're like, oh, I see where you're different. And so you have to kind of tease out, like, are these differentiators important to you? I mean, it could be in some cases that we want you to have experience in our industry. And then say, oh, well, that is often a thing, like, especially if you're a regulated environment. Do you understand banking regulations or FDA? And so those are more, I guess, focusing on verticals. But they're, if you have two, A and B, and one can meet your needs. So I think it's been a gradual. I will say that I feel very strong about our marketing program on that. I think that so it was work in the marketing area around that really is allowing us to have probably a smaller sales team than we probably should for our success.
Yeah. I know you. So you have a marketing manager, full-time marketing manager. You have a chief revenue officer that are driving your marketing efforts, and you've been doing that for a while. One of the things you said to me was marketing gets a bad rap. Can you unpack that a little bit?
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember the context. I don't know if you recall that.
I think when you said it, you were talking about, you were thinking about, it was kind of in the context of ROI and how a lot of people expect fairly immediate results with marketing, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, right. That you recall. Yeah. So I remember that now. So yeah, really it's I think for us is like, we've committed to marketing and so when I talk to other CEOs and peers and they're not seeing results from marketing, and say, oh, what's going on? And they get skeptical because I think they try something and they get mediocre results and they write it off. Well, see, I told you marketing wasn't going to work. And to us, marketing is a bunch of things. So like, I have a really close peer that I talk to. It's kind of like his little CEO for him. And he's a very sales oriented organization. We're more marketing focused, how we approach the getting business.
Yeah.
And for us, it's we're building not marketing is part of our brand, our value. It's taken us 5 years really to get really good SEO. It wasn't like, you just don't, people are visiting our websites. Do we have any business from it? No, why not? Then, do we have this call to actions and whatever? So you start drilling down, and it takes a while, and you have to be able to try, measure, and adjust. It's like I think you referenced to even a business, like you run across something, why isn't it working? And many people give up, and they just think, well, marketing's not a science. And like, well, it kind of is, and it's there's some creativity to it, but you got to make a flywheel. And I thought that's how I think we look at it. But I think that's why marketing. Maybe I said marketing is a bad rep. I think it's because they gave up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you kind of touched on it. You've been doing SEO for 5 years. Most people would have given up already. Like I had a conversation with somebody yesterday who was like, man, marketing just doesn't work for us. Like we've had 6 different marketing companies. None of them have done anything. And whenever I hear that, I've always got to unpack it a little bit more. It's like, well, what exactly happened? What were you doing? How long did you do it? I just had an interview with somebody the other day, and they were investing in cold outreach, and he was like, man, we invested in this for like a year and nothing was happening, and so we stopped. And then he was like, 4 months later, I think they closed like 2 or 3 clients that came from those efforts. And so he was like, it didn't have enough time to see those results. But once we closed those 2 or 3 clients, the ROI was fantastic on what we were doing. Right. So there's so many people that are just, there's the old story, and I can't remember where it came from, about the guy digging for gold. Right. And he's digging for gold. He's like, this isn't working. He sells the land. And then the next guy digs 6 inches and hits gold. So many of us with marketing just stop short of or long before we've given it enough time to actually work. And so I love the fact that you said, look, we're committed to it. We're gonna, even if it's not working, we're still gonna do these things. The framework that always stuck with me with marketing was you test, you measure, you learn. Right. So you're out there testing, you're measuring it so that you can determine what's working and what's not. You learn from that, and then you just wash, rinse, repeat. It is a cycle that you never stop. So you've been doing it long enough. You fed the flywheel, and now the flywheel's moving. Yeah. It's got momentum. Now you just need to keep feeding it. It's much easier to feed a flywheel that has momentum than to start from the scratch again.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you talked about, the person you talked about with cold outreach. And we, when you said that, I thought maybe it was me I talked to, because we had tried that for a year. We had very little success with that. But it doesn't mean I'm not going to do it. I realized what went wrong with it, it was sometimes you talk to companies and they go, we have a process, and it's not, I don't know. It was too generic of a process in that case. So I'm now knowing what I know, I may do it again, but revisit, in a different way. But it doesn't mean it's not going to work. It just means the way we did it didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's especially like with cold outreach and on marketing in general, the industry does a very bad job of setting expectations, because there's so many people out there going, oh yeah, we'll generate leads for you tomorrow, or we'll get you on page 1 of Google in 30 days. I mean, it's garbage. You can't control that. And it really, especially with cold outreach, it's a process, unless you really, really have things already dialed in, there's going to be some learning. And frankly, once it starts working, it doesn't always work forever. Things start to shift, the market starts to shift, and you're like, gosh, what we were doing isn't working anymore, and we need to continue to iterate and tweak this process. So it's never a set it and forget it activity, as much as we would love it to be, but it's not.
Well, and during COVID is a perfect example. We were going to trade shows, right? And all of a sudden that whole thing died up for a couple of years. Like we put all this investment in, a booth and all this stuff. And we just attended our first trade show. Well, maybe our second, but I mean, like it was actually that channel right now is a little back in action where for a while you had to like pivot and go, what are we going to do without that?
Yeah. So Brian, you touched on cold outreach. Any other marketing initiatives that come to mind that you guys tried that just didn't work and that were learning lessons for you? Does anything else come to mind?
Yeah, it's I guess I would say we had a disjointed technology stack, if you will, or so like. And so I remember when I first started the company, and I like, oh, okay, we got a website. Woo, we have everything going on here, and it was just a website, and it was about things we'd want to hear about ourselves, and more of a vanity website, and it wasn't aimed at the customer, right? You're like, so what is somebody else? Why do they care that you are good people, like, or whatever? So, then started, okay, I got to do some blogs because I got to generate, more SEO, and so you started. But things weren't really working. We did, some of the free email programs, MailChimp or whatever, and it was really disjointed. And then we tried a marketing platform for that was kind of aimed at our industry MSPs to help generate inbound. It was like, and it was very frustrating because I like you mentioned, people's like, you can get leads and really quickly. And so I invested in this platform. It was very frustrating. It was very low performing. And so that was a failure, but like I said, but I still believe in the concept. So we ended up moving over to HubSpot, which kind of put all of this together. We have our website, our marketing, CRM, sales, and it allows us to, it has a very big impact on our business. And for small businesses, they might say, wow, that's really expensive. But what I've learned is that, you get what you pay for in some of these things, and you invest in good people, just like invest in good people, maybe good marketing consultants, good marketing companies, good marketing products. I'm not going to go and buy the biggest platform that the enterprise people use, but it was definitely, we stumbled along the way, and it kind of relates to maybe the earlier thing, like just believe in yourself. Like we believe in what we're doing, we're just not quite doing it right. So we have to tweak. So all of the things that we had, I mentioned performance. We had that. So I have to tell this because maybe other people have experienced this, but the very first platform we tried, and I'll spare them the name for embarrassment, but we would send an email out and they had a graphic embedded in it. And in email, graphics they don't show up until you maybe click on them, and they click on it. And literally it took 45 seconds for the graphic to appear and download. Yeah. I was like, so I would complain about that. Like, no, that's the way it works. I'm like, no, you've already lost them. By that time they're deleting it. They don't even want to see that graphic.
No, they're gone.
Yeah. So, that was just one example, and I just couldn't, I spent more time as my IT nerd going, wait a second, you could do this better. And I finally that's not what I want to focus on. I want to focus on getting our message out.
Yeah.
So,
well, and it's a couple of things I'll share here. One of my mentors said, always buy the best tool for the job. Sometimes as business owners, I think we're like, oh gosh, I think I can save some money there. But the best tools are going to make things far more efficient, which, you guys now have found a tool that works for you. It's like, hey, HubSpot is a great platform. It works for some, it doesn't work great for others. And because look, we're all different. I always tend to think that this is not just with marketing tools, this is just tools in general. I think the best tool is the one that you're going to be able to understand and actually use, because where the wheels come off is it's like, oh, this is a great tool. And you start to use it and you're like, this is the most confusing thing ever. Like, I'm never going to figure this out. And people just give up, and because of that, they don't maximize it. So it's, there's a lot of tools that have great flashy features and benefits. I find half the time most people don't use a lot of that stuff. So, as long as you can understand it and it's going to meet your needs, then cool, use it.
Well, in that same vein, so this works because we're trying to get there's basically a blue ocean of people who could become customers of ours. we recommend HubSpot to some of our clients because we like it. But it
Yeah.
turns out that, if you're a pharmaceutical company and the 50 or the 30 people that you're going to that are going to buy your drug, and these whatever, you got to focus on the 30 people. You don't need to like start, market to everybody in the world. You want to get your message out. You want to, do other things. So like some of those tools may not have value because your business is a little bit different. Not everybody has to. So it is, like HubSpot works for us, but I know there's a lot of other programs out there, but yeah, it has to work for you, and you have to believe that you have to be happy with the results.
Yeah, absolutely. So Brian, looking back at your Ayuva Tech experience, what are the top 2 to 3 things that kind of stand out for you?
Well, I think I'm going to repeat what I said a little bit earlier, the hire great people, period. Right. And what stands out too is that when you hire great people, then you empower them, right? You say, you know what, do what you're going to do. Let me help you break down barriers, but you'll find that they do things better, faster, stronger than you could. And you don't have to micromanage them. You say, here's our goal. Here's what, hire you, empower you, go do it. And it's been amazing. And it translates to life too. I have children. I say, spend your time with people that are, great people. Spend your time, have great friends, because you're kind of the average of those 5 people you spend time with. It applies to business. You're all, you hopefully they're going to raise your average and you'll raise their average, and, everyone's going. So that's I think the first thing. The second thing I would think about is related to that is build a great culture. I think the culture is your superpower. And so I think, the brand and the culture, your brand is a kind of a mirror of your culture. So when people say, if you put out brand, here's who we are, and then people don't experience what you put out there, it's going to be a problem. But if you say, here's who we are, and you advertise as your brand and your culture, then everything's consistent. You don't have to worry about that. And I think it really, that I think is probably one of our main superpowers. I have one more is that I thought of here is that, I'm an entrepreneur. It's not for everybody, but before this, I was in startups, venture capital startups.
Okay.
And what I found was whether you succeed or you fail in your startup or your business, like you're learning, and what you learn is probably 3x, because you're just wearing so many hats. You got to be passionate about it. But like I learned so much in the 3 failed startups, VC funded startups I worked at, and I made amazing connections with really smart people. So I would recommend, don't be afraid to try that, because I think I wouldn't be where I am in running a company if I hadn't had those experiences.
Yeah. That kind of leads into my next question, which is, knowing what you know, is there anything you do differently?
Let's see. Yeah, I guess it relates to a little bit what you do, but I think we're technical people. We built a technical company. Eventually, we got around to realizing we got to have a mature sales and marketing function. Word of mouth is great, but if I would have focused on a real sales and marketing approach, I just didn't know. I probably would have been. It seemed kind of expensive at the time, and looking back, I think we would have been more successful. I mean, I'm not saying we're not successful, but I think we would have had even greater success if we would have put that mindset forward on us.
It's before I got into marketing, I didn't really think about this all that much, and now that I've been in it, it's I'm certainly biased, but I've always felt like whatever business you're in, that's what you're in. That's in second place. You are a sales and a marketing company first and foremost, because if you don't have that, you're the best kept secret in the world. Like, it doesn't matter how great you are, because you don't have any business. So and I realized that sales and marketing are not all of our skill sets, right? So we either need to level up those skill sets or hire people that can do that function for us very well, because without it, it's never going to work.
Yeah.
So
one of our I guess biggest competitors, or they're bigger than us, and we've started about the same time. They're much bigger than us, but I think they went with that approach early on. I thought, and my partner, he has an MBA, so I thought, neither of us really thought through this. We were stuck in the nerd weeds,
Yeah. Brian, this has been great, man. I really appreciate you taking the time. You shared a lot of good stuff with us today. Where can people learn more about you?
Well, if you want to interact with me directly, LinkedIn, my B Beilman on my LinkedIn, look for Brian Beilman. And I often and myself and my staff, we do a lot of blogs on our website. So we really try to share information. It goes to SEO, but in the end, we're trying to provide real value. So those are if you want to be passive and read blogs, or you want to reach out LinkedIn, I'm happy to talk about anything related to this.
Cool. I love it. So go check out iuvotech.com or check out Brian on LinkedIn. Look, I'm just going to tell you that I can't imagine there being another Brian Beilman that spells the name Brian Bryon. So
that is correct.
I'm sure that they can also search for you under Brian, and Beilman is Beilman, but we'll make sure that both those links are in the show notes. So if you want to connect with Brian, please do so. I have enjoyed connecting with you now twice. So thank you so much for taking the time, Brian. I really appreciate it. Those of you that are watching, listening, I appreciate you as well. We've been talking a lot about growth, how to accelerate growth today. If you want to know which of the 9 revenue roadblocks are slowing down your growth, you can do that over at revenueroadblockscorecard.com. You can also always connect with us over at our website, which is rialtomarketing.com. Be happy to chat with you. So don't be shy. Reach out. Brian, thank you so much. Until next time.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, you bet, man.